Senator, we're back. You're back in the Capitol complex in your Senate office. Yeah. Have you been here much since June?
No. This is actually the first time of me sitting here with you, other than I had some friends come in the other night, and they wanted to see my office, so I popped in here and showed them my office, and then I left.
Well, talk to me about this physical journey here. You've been through, I think, multiple surgeries since June. Have you had a sense as to, your doctor's given you a sense as to how close to being rehabilitated that you are?
It's a recovery is it's a journey, man. It's a process, right? It's not the end goal. It's what's funny is the recovery side of it doesn't happen in a linear sense. There's ups and downs with it. One doctor told me, because I'm like, God, I'm exhausted, and he said, well, duh, you're going to be. It's going to take over a year for you to get to the point where you're feeling like you can, manage yourself on that. That's a full year because of what my body's gone through and then what my mind has gone through, right? And so it's one day at a time, Brian, and one moment at a time.
We're dancing around it a bit, but that new plaque you have up there kind of says it all. 9 shots. You took 9 shots.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, then they're not counting this one on my side of my face here. That one is caused a little scarring. That would be 10 if we're counting. So
I'm hoping you could tell me about the night of June 13th, in the Hoffman household, before any of the horror that was visited upon your family. What was that like? What was June 13th like?
That night was normal. We were at a DFL fundraiser. We were at listening to the governor of Illinois. He came to town to give a rousing keynote speech about the Hyatt. No, I'm kidding. I mean, that's what his
family,
right? It's like, wow, he's an actual billionaire, right? And so we're table mates with Zach Stevenson and then Melissa and Mark Hortman. We're all sitting at the same table, and it's. That got done, and everybody hugged each other and said, okay, see you tomorrow. And we went home, and it was just an ordinary night. And then things changed.
Yeah, then what?
Then I was watching in my green chair, watching TV with my neck pillow, just chilling out. And then, of course, what do you do when you sit in a green fluffy chair? You end up falling asleep. I fell asleep in the green chair. Yvette was already upstairs sleeping, and there was a pounding and a banging and door ringing, and I could see lights and somebody yelling, "Police, open the door," and then everything changed in a moment right there, Brian,
I realized you might have been a little bit groggy, stirred, but what was going through your mind when you answered that door? And
it was grogginess. It was a fog because it was like, I wasn't fully awake. And when you're awoken in such a manner where you're not able to fully be present, you're just like, is this really happening? And then when it, kept moving and I realized he wasn't who he said he was, it was then survival. It was just a focus on survival at that point.
Yeah, how can you even react in a moment like that?
Yeah, your adrenaline's flying. Everything was in slow motion. To this day, as I think back, I was able when I slammed the door on him, when I first pushed on him, right after I said, "You're not a cop," and he looked at me and he goes, "You're right. This is a robbery." And I'll never forget. I could, that voice, those eyes. Then I said, "F it is," and I pushed the door. And first bullet went through this finger. I'm a drummer, so I'm a traditional match drummer, right? That bounce effect is gone because that's where the first bullet. Second one was my elbow, which tore apart, my bicep and tricep, and I have a steel plate and 7 screws in there. And then the third one, it was like slow motion. Poof, these bullets started coming through the door, and I saw this one come through the door and enter me right here. And that was 2 millimeters away from my heart. The fourth one was right here, and that one's still inside me, Brian. So I had these two, my heart sits right here. So grateful that the guy's a bad shot.
But he talked about it as a robbery. There was no kind of like, because obviously what we know now is more about the kind of the political motivations. But at the time, none of that was showing itself.
No, and it was, no, because he was trying to convince everybody he's a cop. And when I finally said, you're not a cop, then he switched gears and said, this is a robbery. And then that's when we did what we know how to do. The Hoffman family fought back. And then once I hit the ground after being shot, with 9 holes, my wife jumped in and she threw her hand out and was pushing him out the door, right? Got him to actually leave after he shot her 8 times.
Were you surprised he left? I mean,
to me, I wasn't. There's no feeling there, Brian, except the fact that all of a sudden he was gone, and then next thing I know, I looked up and there was Sergeant Lewis from the Champlin Police Department, and to this day, when I see him publicly or I'm in a meeting and he's in there, I break down in tears. I'm so grateful that guy showed up when he did, like right away. And then the EMTs, everybody, fell in line and did what they needed to do. And
this was all in a matter of minutes. Like after the 911 call, it was
boom. It was they were on their way. The 911 call, they were on their way within minutes, and everybody was organized. I mean, they came. I'm grateful to the Champlin Police, to the EMTs. Absolutely.
So you're in the hospital. When do you find out that this was bigger than just an attack on the Hoffmans?
2 or 3 days. It was a few days later when the chief of police from Brooklyn Park was in talking to me, and that's when I was told that Melissa and Mark were killed, and it was a moment of just nothing. I just no, I didn't want to believe it. Now, they kept it from me because of the fact that there was a tube that was through my chest where the bullet hole was, so it was right next to my heart, and they were all concerned cardiac stuff and wanted to keep me as stable as possible, right? But when I found out, it was like the world just dropped right in front of me. Brian just fell,
And we know now it could have been far worse, given the people that he visited or had on his sheet in the car, right?
Yeah, I mean, and he had the guns. Where was our red flag laws that this dude had more guns than Fort Knox, or I don't know. I mean, why was somebody like that allowed to own and possess so many guns, right? And like 9mm, like that's what that sound of a 9mm is embedded in my ear forever, right? I mean, that sound and that gun. It's taken good therapy for me to get that. When you're facing a 9mm Beretta and it's inches from your nose and all you see is the barrel, and that's something I would never wish on anybody, Brian.
So the Hoffman and Hortman families, they're kind of bound in this tragic act of violence. Have you been working through it together, if at all? I mean, have you been in tandem recovery with the family, in touch with the family?
Yeah, we're gonna go visit with them eventually. It's a time. Timing is everything, right? And so we'll eventually sit down with them and really, have the conversation. Zach Stevenson is setting that up. As we talk, we've been talking about it. So,
and what as much as you're willing to talk about here, about this is an active case, right? There could be a trial at some point. Have the federal prosecutors been keeping you in the loop? Are they asking you your thoughts on capital punishment?
It's interesting you bring that up. We had a federal prosecuting team in place, and they resigned. So there's new prosecutors that have been assigned to the case, and I haven't met them yet. So
These
I don't know.
Are the people who resigned last week?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Does that give you a concern?
It does, Brian. It really does. Because it's like, how is the process? Because there's a process they have to present to the federal local has to present to the federal national folks, and then somebody makes a decision on how this case is taken. And I don't know the ins and outs on that one. I just know that that's the process. And then so now it's, we just need to know who these new prosecutors are and then meet with them to find out, what's their process, how are they doing to it, right?
Have they asked you about whether they should pursue it as a capital punishment case?
So whatever decision they make, and I'm not at privilege really to kind of talk about this stuff, Brian. I've been advised to not talk about that stuff. I know that's one of the options that they're presenting to whoever they need to present to. That is one of the options. I know that.
So former President Joe Biden visited you in the hospital in the weeks after. What was that like, and what did he convey to you?
He shared about the loss of his wife and child, when he was first elected. I didn't know he was coming. And the State Patrol, all they said was, there's a Secret Service clearance visitor, and they're going to be coming. And I didn't know it was President Biden until like 3 hours prior, once they had their clearance stuff. And then State Patrolman came in and said, you have Secret Service. And I said, well, who is it? And he said, it's the president, Joe Biden. Once you're president, always a president, right? It's President Joe Biden. And we're like, what? And my mom was coming to visit me, and she was just going to stop in and say hi. And so I told her, you might want to stick around. She said, why? I said, I don't know. Joe Biden's coming to visit me, right? And so all of a sudden, the door opens and this guy comes through the door and he goes, hi, I'm Joe Biden. And gracious, human, talked about, trauma. I mean, he was real. He spent like almost an hour with us, Brian. And we were told, no pictures, no photographs.
He took a selfie, though.
It was funny because he said, he's like, anybody got a camera? I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, let's get a picture. You want a picture? And then so everybody he's like, yeah, take as many pictures as you want. So he's basically going against the process. But he was real.
What about the current president? Did he call you at all? Has he talked to you since this?
I was, when I was laying in the hospital, no. I didn't, no.
Since?
No.
Does that bother you?
I mean, I'm focused on, this is the thing that, does it bother me that certain people not calling? No, I mean, the people that have called, I'm so grateful for folks, my neighbors who I didn't really know. All of a sudden they were mowing my backyard. I was like, wow, how cool is that, right? Or the nurse across the street who's making sure that, the packages that are coming, she was taking care of that. She even shoveled my driveway when the first snow we had. It's like grateful for folks that have reached out. Small businesses that, our fence was falling down and all of a sudden within 6 hours, everything's fixed. I had no idea, that's kind of stuff.
One of the reasons I'm asking, of course, is because just a couple of weeks ago in early January, you issued a response to a social media post by President Trump that was amplifying this conspiracy theory about Melissa Hortman's death. Why did you feel compelled to do that?
Man, it was hurtful because that's the underlying issue. If you go back to when we start treating people like people, we have to get back to that, Brian, right? And that underlying conspiracy theories, which just ramps up the gap, the fear gap, right? It ramps people up to where there's no trust anymore. And you fear, and all of a sudden you're starting to, and we were attacked because of political violence. Somebody who didn't know us from Adam, right? And so that brought back that same kind of feeling of why are you doing this kind of thing? That's why we decided to do that.
And you have been making this appeal about political violence in other settings at, some of the virtual speeches you gave in the months after. Do you feel like any of it has gotten through?
It's something we have to keep amplifying, right? And one of the things you look at guys like Paul Wellstone, who would forgive you for everything, but would not forgive you if you ever gave up. He would say, don't give up, keep it up, right? Jim Ramstead would say the same thing. I'm going to keep it up. We have to keep it up. disagree with my policy, disagree with my politics, that's part of normal discourse, right? But as soon as you start to dehumanize me as an individual, then you start to create that fear, that anger, and that anxiety, and that's not okay.
Just on the score, though, we're headed into this supercharged election year that has already been very intense in the early weeks here in Minnesota. It's going to be intense in Minnesota and around the country. What worries you the most?
What would worries the most is the finger pointing and brinkmanship, the politicalization of things. Like, for example, in the human services world, right? We have a charge in Minnesota, and I've always done a great job of taking care of most vulnerable and our elderly, right? Don't politicize this, Brian. Keep it pragmatic.
And I do want to get into that, and we will in just a little bit. But just in terms of more on the political violence and the public safety of people in office, who come to see people in office, who come to their halls of government.
Yeah.
Obviously, Capitol security is a focal point right now. What do you think should be done on that?
It sure changes how we've done business around here, right, Brian? I mean, you're going to probably notice that it changed a little bit as we, certain security measures, and now it's even going to get tighter. And I don't like that because of the fact that is the people's house. And for years, we've always had free reign of that people's house. People coming in, just merely having the state patrol presence has always been a great deterrent for any bad actors that show up here.
Metal detectors?
Now we're going to change that.
Is that something you want to see?
I think that's the direction they're going. I don't know. I've not been involved in those conversations. What are you hearing? Are you hearing that they're going to do it?
I mean, there's the recommendation that's on the table. I don't know where it goes from there, but I mean, obviously, people like you, don't you think you have a louder voice in this conversation?
Yeah. Well, then again, people like me who have been shot 9 times would say bring in the metal detectors and get rid of the guns, right? I mean, that's. But you can still have your conceal and carry in the state capitol, right? I think if the recommendation is for the metal detectors, man, bring them. Because there's a group of people that are made up of state patrol and, our public safety folks. And if they're recommending one thing, I think we should listen to those recommendations. Don't you?
I mean, they're the experts, right? So at some point, you have to defer to the experts.
And see, that's what leadership's all about. It's not, I don't have any, when you say, well, you got some more say in this, but I'm not an expert in that. I'm just a victim of it, right? And it's like, what are the experts saying? And you just said it. Then I think we should listen to those. This is the other thing what recovery's got me listening more, right? Yeah, if the experts are saying this is what you guys need, then I think we should listen to them.
How are you viewing these last few weeks of tension centered in Minneapolis, not far from where you live, around immigration? And what's been happening closer to your city of Champlin?
Yeah, well, Brooklyn Park just yesterday, there was a constituent who was videotaping the presence of some federal folks, and she was pepper sprayed in her front yard just for observing, even after a federal judge said you can't do that to observers, right? And so then I have another family. She happens to have, she's has a name that lots of people have the same name from the same family. And there's a guy, they showed a picture to her neighbors and saying, where is this person? Do you know you live next to a criminal? And it's the woman, not the guy. The woman might have the same name, but her middle name is completely different, right? She now is scared beyond all scared because of the fact that they think she's a he. And I mean, it's stuff like that.
What do you say to those folks? I mean,
I connected her right away with our local mayor, who has our chief of police at Brooklyn Park, right away with the congressional office, and right away with a council of people that had lawyers ready to help her. And I tell you what, I feel her anxiety and I feel her fear because I actually faced that, Brian, the anxiety and the fear. If I would have hesitated one more second, I would be dead. Think about that. I couldn't hesitate, right? And that's exactly, so I feel that fear that's going on in that family. And these are constituents. These are people I know in Brooklyn Park.
So the Trump administration, as you know, has tied a lot of this back to allegations of fraud in Minnesota, particularly within immigrant communities. What do you make of that?
We gave the Department of Human Services,
The State Department.
yeah, we gave them, we gave them authority to go in like a laser, at least statutorily, to go get the bad actors from the good actors, right? And so the allegations that were driving this were from the Feeding Our Futures kind of thing. That's what they seem to be highlighting, right? When the fact is that yes, there were bad actors in that, right? But there was also then rolling down to some other providers. But instead of going like a laser and focusing on the bad actors and getting those bad actors, in jail and paying back, they did a blanket approach. And you have good actors like up in Duluth, right? I don't know, does NPR go up to Duluth?
Yeah, and I know you've written a letter to the department to talk about this blanket approach, and you've voiced concerns that people who are legitimately providing services or entitled to receive them might be swept up in this fervor over fraud. What gives you kind of, where's this headed, and what can you do about it as a lawmaker?
So two things. There's the point is that there were good actors that were swept up in this, right? And I'm using one example up in Duluth. A woman for 30 years been a good actor. She's shutting her doors because of the fact that they decided to offset this payment restructuring piece and didn't give ample notice, right? All of a sudden, get your time in on that. Second thing, the question really is, given what we gave you, right? Because you told us you needed this statutory authority in order to do this. A, did you do it? Or B, why didn't you do it, right? And what was missing from the fact that we gave you? And I got 9 pages, and that'll come out in the hearings, Brian, if you're here on the 28th and 29th. I think I'm going to get that notified today. We're going to do 2 days of, we're going to have public hearings on my letter, which you apparently have seen a copy of. Who'd you get it from?
I can't say that. But what has the Walz administration response been to that? Like these cautionary notes you've been getting. What have they said to you about it?
About the letter, nothing. I got no response. All I got was a response back that said, because I basically said we will be having hearings, and your attendance is expected, and if not, I would do full. I don't know what I said. Subpoena authority on that or something. I don't know. But I got a response back that said, no, we would be more than happy to participate fully in your hearings. So that's the only response I got back from the administration.
But they haven't sped up payments at all to some of these providers that are contacting you?
Well, I had one provider told me that they were supposed to speed that up, but when they gave notice on doing it, it was like December 20 something. They gave you 2 days to get your authorizations in order or something. It was the what's the word? The clarity of how they gave that out was not very open and tight. It was too tight. So don't ever get shot because your brain. I know what I want to say, Brian.
I'll try not to.
But dude, it's like all right. Here's what the timing on it was terrible, and how they processed it was terrible. How they didn't bring in people that were part of the discussion. The transparency was not well executed. So the question then we're going to ask them is, what do you need from us statutorily to make sure you're doing your job that we're expecting you're supposed to be doing? Don't leave people with disabilities and our elderly on the side of the road, because that was my biggest fear, Brian, in all this.
So there's no disputing that we're in some unprecedented times. The public attention has been drifting from crisis to crisis, and the outrage machine is still in full force. Just consider what's happened since your shooting. You've had the school shooting at Annunciation, the enormous fraud focus, a governor who's abruptly ended his campaign for re-election, this ICE operation we've been talking about that the nation hasn't seen the likes of before. How are you, and maybe how should people make sense of it all?
So you look back in time, right? And I think about the guys that went across the bridge. They were peacefully protesting, going across a bridge, and they were met with, they got just beat up. Just beat, right? I look at guys like Andrew Young.
You're talking down in Selma?
Yeah, thank you, Selma. Emmett, I used to know that. What is it?
Edmund Pettit?
Edmund Pettit Bridge, yes. That you think about in time, right? When we've had moments in time when society is being challenged by some things that aren't right, and I look at guys like Andrew Young who never gave up, and Rick Hansen and I and Sarah Stroman actually got to spend a lot of time with him down in St. Louis for a Mississippi River meeting, and the history of somebody like that. And you go to Memphis and you go to the museum down there, the Lorraine Hotel. It was the Lorraine Hotel, and Andrew Young is all over that place, right? Those guys were met with a society that said, well, you're not equal to us. They dehumanized them, right? And Andrew Young, he never gave up. The folks that were with him, they never gave up, right? And so it's saying the same thing here, Brian. Society gets challenged, whether it be then or, the civil rights piece of it. You think about Kent. I remember the Vietnam War. You had in Mankato. Did you grow up in Minnesota?
I did not. Wisconsin.
Really?
You want to end this interview right now?
We're done, man. Are you a Packers fan?
I have to confess, yes.
Oh, my God. Oh, that's all right.
I got through the screeners. So
did you get through the screener?
Yeah.
You're good on that one. So, and you notice I didn't say Packers suck. I mean, that seems to be the thing that comes after you say I'm a Packers, and then they come in. Chicago Bears. What a team. What a great team that was. So anyway, in Wisconsin, in 169 going through Mankato, the students down there shut down 169 as a protest. They shut down the freeway. And the National Guard was out there shooting flares over their heads, right? So you think about those times in society when there was unrest. We seemed to find a way to get to the right side of history on that. And these are challenges for us, Brian. We have to keep leading the right way to get us to that right goal. Does that make sense?
Let's talk about a month from now.
And I won't be making fun of the Packers anymore.
That's okay. You can make
sense.
fun all you want. They had a rough ending to the year. About a month from now, the Capitol will be busy again. The session will be back in. What do you think needs to happen, and what particular role do you intend to play in the session?
My bill, I got a bill that you're impersonating a police officer. Right now, it's a misdemeanor charge, and it should be a felony from the get-go. If you want to pretend you're a cop, then go hire a good lawyer to get you off this felony. All the bonding projects that we have will get fully funded.
Those construction projects for your area.
Yes, we got to get. Like David Tomassoni taught me that you got to deliver for your city, and that's all that matters. So, I think you're going to see bonding. We are going to have these serious, and it'll be a short session, Brian. We're going to need to have those serious conversations. That's why I'm doing a pre-session conversation with the department about what didn't we give you enough of 9 pages of statutory authority that you couldn't do this, and now you've done this hammered approach and it's not working, right? Those fixes and that'll be it. Other than people that are running for higher office or running for some other office are going to get their 15 minutes of fame. We should get a bingo card going about how many times certain people can get up and talk on the floor.
You're going to have some fame. How do you expect to be received when you...
I don't have any fame. I'm still the same guy I was. I'm still going to ignore you when I come walking by you on the floor because I'm not the interesting one to talk to. You're gonna you always with your headset on and your microphone and you're always looking for somebody else. I'm giving you a hard time. You know that, sure. Brian.
Yeah.
I think. You're going to see that. And we just need to stay focused on what's important to Minnesota, right? It's, how can we be honest to Minnesota and stay focused to Minnesota? And that's what recovery has done for me, is given me clarity about what my role is, Brian, and I think that's what we're going to stay focused on.
And you're planning to be on the ballot this fall. You announced it a couple weeks ago.
I did.
Was it a close call at all?
It's a long conversation with my wife. We made a decision, and then at 3:41 we made that decision. At 3:42, Blois Olson got a phone call from somebody wondering about it. At 3:45, Blois called me and said, when you were going to inform me that you were going to run again. that's a decision that was made with lots of family and friends. And also you looked around. I looked around and I saw what was happening in the last 7 months. And I said, we can do better.
Well, nobody would have faulted you for stepping back, right? After all you had been through, why was it important for you to kind of stay in the game, as I think you put it that way?
Yeah, and it's the crossroad comes up, right? And you say, okay, the normal reaction is to withdraw, right? It's say, I'm going to withdraw and I'm going to isolate. I'm going to go take care of me, myself, and I, right? But then I remember the words of Paul Wellstone, who said, don't ever give up, or Andrew Young, who said, I never gave up, right? These folks have said to me in the worst of times, don't give up. And in this case, it's not to give up, right? And so it's to keep focused on doing what's right. Then I know, and I'm not being Pollyanna about it, Brian. I'm just saying, that's my decision, was to not give up. And I think that's what Melissa Hortman would say the same thing. There's a picture my daughter had made, I don't know, acrylic something. I don't know how she did it, but she got
that's the picture.
That thing up there is for my birthday.
Describe that picture for us.
So it's David Tomassoni is in Angel Wings.
Former state senator.
Yeah, and just absolutely a Olympic hockey player who took out Wayne Gretzky in the '84 Olympics. Did you know that? That's a famous, absolute famous picture.
I heard a lot of his hockey stories, but not that one.
That one, yeah, he didn't like talking about it, but I reminded him one time with that picture on a Wheaties box, and he yelled at me. Carrie Dietzig, who actually is the only person in the history of the Senate that could get David to be quiet and listen. And it was all because she would come in when we were on the LCCMR, and she would start off with, if she said, hi, David, then it was just a normal conversation. But if she started with, so, David, the so led to so, then your first name, then you knew there was some serious Dietzig something coming. And then Melissa Hortman, who said to me one time when we were arguing, she said, I am like your little kid sister. It's just a pain in the side. And I said, absolutely. So she was my political kid sister. I miss her, always pushing back and always smirking as she threw the Senate under the bus. Would make fun of us every time we did a public meeting. And then she would turn around and she would be smirking at me like, I got you.
And winking.
Oh, that was there. It was, and when she would say, let's effing go, Brian, it was like, let's go time. Those three people had such a huge influence on me. And my daughter, apparently I talked about them all the time. She went and did that. And it was kind of cool.
And just so I understand, you're doing a lot of these now because you want kind of the focus on your personal tragedy to not be the focus on your work for the year, right?
Yeah, I think, you look at it. Yeah, what happened to me is absolutely, in my family, unspeak of. I don't think another state senator in the United States had done what happened, right? It's kind of like, that doesn't drive who I am, right? What drives me who I am is the work that I do and I want to keep doing, and the clarity that I have to keep moving forward. Never forget what Mark and Melissa Hortman were about, right, in their life. And never forget what Yvette and I are about. We're grateful to be alive, Brian. I mean, it just, there's one other guy in Minnesota that I know that was shot 9 times and lived. And there's one other musician I know nationally who was shot 9 times and lived. So with that, 50 Cent, I am the 50 Senator, Brian. So there you go. So anyway.
Senator John Hoffman, thank you for your time and welcome back. And thanks
Brian,
for all the candidness.
I appreciate you, Brian, and appreciate your work. And thanks for letting me be on here.